So wait, how long? Louder?
There's a chat.
Huh?
There's a chat. Okay, welcome everyone. I'm going to call the Town of Rochester Town Board October 9th business meeting to order. You could all stand for the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please, can you do the roll call?
Councilwoman Alba,
Here.
Councilman Coleman,
Here.
Councilman Smeesa, here, Councilman Nguyen is absent, Supervisor Allen.
Here. Okay, welcome everyone. We have an agenda ahead of us, and the first item on the agenda is the acceptance of the agenda. I would like to make the motion that the town board accepts the agenda as prepared by the town supervisor with the following amendments. To change the highway budget discussion to a general budget overview discussion. And to amend the discussion items to include a discussion of the Spectrum franchise agreement. And then we will strike scheduling a public hearing for the 2026 budget.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Since we have a lot of people here, I'd just like to add that our all of our agendas are linked on the town board page, and at the top of each agenda is a hyperlink to our YouTube page, to our Zoom participation link, and then also to a public. Also to a public folder that has the documents that we'll be considering at the meeting in it. So I just wanted to share that. There's a bunch of meeting folders with documents in that Google Drive link. The reason why I'm saying that now is because the financial reports for September are in that link. So anyone that wants to see the detailed report, board members receive that, but the public is also able to receive that report. So the September financial report in summary for revenue, general fund, $293,969.51. Highway fund, $340,344.65. Expenditures in general fund, $247,719.26. Highway fund, $221,511.90. We had no expenditures from capital or ambulance funds, and out of street lighting, $237.50. I had invited superintendent, our highway superintendent to the meeting tonight to do a general highway fund budget discussion. There's a lot of capital purchases being proposed in the highway fund budget that were requested, and I thought it would be good for us to have a high level discussion of that as soon as we could in October, but he this afternoon said he wasn't able to make it and asked to reschedule. So instead, I thought it would be good, and I probably should have scheduled this regardless, to do a quick overview of the tentative budget that Kate has presented to the board and was submitted on September 30th. So I did, this is a new budget format. Last year I used the budget format that we had been using before, but there's a few things I've thought of as the budget officer that I thought might be beneficial for the format of the budget. The first you'll notice is, I did an introduction letter. I thought it might be helpful to just give an overview of where we're at, what types of, expenditure increases we're seeing, what some of the goals for, the town are, and what I feel the task of the town board is throughout our budget process. So, currently, if you look at the budget, the numbers for the tax levy increase are bigger, quite big increases. Part of the reason why I did that is because we have lost some of our funding, some of our revenue sources. Shouldn't say lost. We have been relying on fund balance as a revenue stream for the past several years, and we have been using fund balance to keep our tax levy low, but we have now gotten to the point where to continue to use fund balance would be an irresponsible financial decision because it would put us below where we need our fund balance to be to have a healthy funds, basically. So I put that in the letter just so the board and the public could kind of understand where we're at. And then second to utilizing fund balance as a revenue stream, we can take out loans. And so that isn't, while we can do that, it is not a smart financial decision to use loans to pay for regular operating expenses. However, if the board wanted to use a lending stream to help cushion the increase we need to see for the tax levy, that is an option. But I thought that that was just one of the big discussions that we needed to have as a board. The highway fund does not have much fund balance to speak of. I'm hoping that in the next cycle of longer term planning, we can plan to build up the fund balance for highway fund because it's a very, very, very small percentage of their overall budget, like 1%. So that's one thing. We can't use fund balance to help fund highway fund. They're also proposing, like I said, some capital expenditures that are on top of the normal year-to-year expenditures because our roads are in the type of, in a condition that we need to use all resources that we have available to repair our roads. So that means that the $600,000 or so we get from the state that we use to cover road improvements, permanent improvements, and occasionally we use those funds for equipment. So the last truck that we bought was purchased with our state funding. So didn't have any overall impact on the budget. This year, we need to utilize all of that funding for road improvements. However, we also are in need of making equipment expenditures. So the task that we have is balancing those priorities and those needs with being fiscally responsible in terms of how we are turning some of that expenditure over to the taxpayers. There's a few improvements that we need to make that will not be covered by CHIPS. One of which is Whitfield Road. We are prioritizing repairing Whitfield Road, and that does have to come out of just the highway budget. So that is also an additional expenditure. The plan for that is a very, very good value and a very great plan that utilizes our shared services agreements with the county. However, we still have to put some funding into that repair, which is a very, if you haven't seen it, it is something that really needs to be repaired. So that's the serious part, in terms of like what our goals are. In terms of what this budget represents, it represents for the general fund, which is everything basically but highway. These are regular operating expenditures. I do have a couple part-time positions that are planned, that are additional positions. These are positions that have been requested from departments. So this isn't even, this isn't an expansion that I'm proposing on my own. This comes from our department heads and our staff and need to have more staffing. But that total is less than $80,000 because it's 3 part-time positions. The New York State local retirement increase for our fund in particular is $52,000 above 2025. So this is pensions that are being paid out that are over what the contributions that are being received into the retirement fund are. So we are in a period of time where we are seeing a lot of retirees. So our expenditures towards the New York State local retirement system is going up and up and up. It looks like it's projected to level out, but we will see another big increase next year. We also have increases in our insurance, so our workers' comp, 6% increase of health insurance, and then our liability insurance. It has, last year we saw a 7.5 increase in that. So when we're talking about budget lines that are, $100,000 and you have a 7% increase, that's a chunk of money. So it all adds up. But like I said, the reason why we're seeing a tax levy increase in general fund is not the less than $200,000 budget increase. It's the funding streams it's the revenue streams that we are needing to really take a deep look at. The other thing that I did in this budget, which maybe is a little unconventional, we have 3 Bridge New York projects that could get all completed in 2026, which means we are looking at $3.2 million in expenditures, but also over 95% of that will come back to the town. So what I did is I showed in the highway fund, I showed that portion of that $3.2 million that the town will owe as the expenditure. So I'm going to plot out the revenue and expenditures because we get that reimbursed month to month. So the most we might have to take a ban out to cover will be at the end of the 4th quarter next year to cover us for a few months. So I don't think we're going to have to do a ban for $3.2 million, but the board should be aware that the cash flow for that is going to be different in our preliminary budget than what I put in the tentative. So I'm just showing you what our out-of-pocket expenditures are in this budget. In my tentative budget, I have given a 4% wage increase for town employees. So that is reflected in the numbers. You'll see if there's a difference between wages in the department requests and the tentative budget. That's because I made an adjustment. The requests from the department would have been different from what I had put in the pay scale document, which I include as an appendices to this budget. Our highway has a collective bargaining agreement and they earn a 3% increase over 2025 in this contract. So that one is completely set. General fund employee wages is something that this board decides in the budget process. Then we set the pay officially in January. What is missing? So what is missing from this budget is the topic that we have brought up every month, which is the much needed capital and infrastructure improvements that our town departments and buildings so sorely need. While this building was renovated in our recent history, no other town building has had any infrastructure or even heating and air HVAC system improvements that I can tell from any record. So on any given day, if you work in the town, you will see the impacts of deferred maintenance that we've had, and it impacts our work environment and it impacts our ability to serve the public. This is not something that we can take off and chew and, take off and do next year. But we do need to consider a capital plan that at least funds in part the completion of those projects. So we are planning on seeking other funding sources to assist in those projects. This is probably a multi-year process that we're talking about that requires a lot of forward thinking and planning. So it's not something that we're going to see next year, but it's also not present in this budget. I do think that by the time we have our preliminary budget, I think there will be some funds available in our capital fund, which will help us do a very small part of phase one of something that I feel needs to be the first improvement that we make, but that will be something that we discuss in the preliminary budget once I am able to reconcile the capital fund account and make sure that what is left in there will be available for another capital improvement project. So that's the overview. What I've included is the summary of the tax levy with the information that I had, and there's a few districts that I haven't received, but it looks like we'll have that all in time for the preliminary budget. So what I did this year that's much different from years past is I'm proposing that we adopt a budget to what the New York State comptroller, what New York State requires, which is that we adopt a budget to the 4-digit budget code, that's the category code, and then the 1-digit subcode. So just an overview in government accounting, every department, every category has a pre-assigned 4-digit budget code. So legislative board, town board is always 1010. Like it doesn't matter what town you're in New York, that's what it is. Then there's a pre-assigned sub-digit code. 1 is for personnel, 2 is equipment, and 3 is actually, I forget what it's called, but it's no longer used, but there used to be a 3. And now there's 4, which is contractual, which is everything, basically. It's your supplies, it's your professional services. So there's those 3 codes and everything falls into that. Every budget that we've had is adopted at least to that level. But our budgets have been adopted to a much more minute level of detail that breaks out the budget into not just like the 1 sub-digit, but goes all the way to the 100th. So it's like 3 numbers, 3 decimal points. So in any given 4-digit budget code, you could see 15 line items. So the budget has to be modified to whatever level of detail the town board adopts it. So that means that if I have $50 budgeted in postage and I have $100 budgeted in supplies and materials, and they're both in 1010.4, but I've split those out in my budget, if we are going to expend too much postage but have money left in supplies and materials, I can't spend any money until I come to the board and get a budget modification for $15 I'm just using this as an example, but this is my proposal. It is up to the board. The level of detail that we adopt the budget is ultimately your decision, but I wanted to prepare the tentative budget in the way that I think it should be adopted so that you can take a look at it, you can compare it to years past, and you can think about if you like that level of flexibility. Now, you cannot exceed your budget in the larger codes. So there is still a budget process. I would not be able to authorize or expend more in any of those sub-digit codes, but it just gives us flexibility when I'm oftentimes, you'll see in the budget mods tonight, I'm moving money around in those, in like the same category, but because we adopted the budget to that detail, I have to have board authorization before I approve any expenditures. To me, it's a government efficiency thing, so you'll see that this budget is a lot fewer pages than in years past. But everything is still broken out by the personnel, equipment, and those contractual services. And again, like I kept saying in the general overview, there is not a huge year-over-year increase in any category in the general fund budget. Now, we are doing, I'll talk about it in a minute, but we're doing a townwide reval. That was a expenditure that we split out over 3 years. The third year, which is next year, the expenditures for that are going to be a lot less than this year. So that there was this little pocket of money from that is offsetting some other costs. And then we have those other costs that I mentioned. That's the less than $200,000 increase that we're seeing in the overall budget. Highway fund is different. So highway, you'll see, like I mentioned, there is a bigger increase, but you're not really going to see that reflected here because I pulled out those bridge expenditures. So in the preliminary budget, these numbers are going to shoot up. So it's going to be, a couple $1 million more in both revenue and expenditures in our preliminary budget and highway fund. Last year, we made the change to consolidate all highway labor into a single code, which I think it's actually been very useful for me when I'm looking at overtime, because in years past, overtime was split out among 6 budget codes, so it was really hard to monitor that. Any questions from the board, general or highway fund? High level? Nope. Okay. Then we have the ambulance fund. We've gotten the budget requests from the 2 providers that serve our districts. I hadn't gotten the request from Marbletown, but I just plugged in a number. I plugged in 26,000. They're requesting the same as last year, 25. It looks, yeah. And then Kerhonkson Accord is requesting the same tax levy amount that they have had last year. So those are proposed to be flat. One difference that we might see in the preliminary budget is in our contracts, we allow the squads to use our fuel and then they reimburse the town. So they're part of our contract. So that shows up now in our general fund as an expenditure and a revenue line that balance each other out. On advice of our accountant, we should actually move that so that it's reflected in the ambulance fund because those expenditures are in service of the ambulance district. So I will probably work those into this budget, but it will be a zero sum. You'll see a revenue and an expenditure that equal each other. But that's what that is. That's in our contract. And if we want to keep doing that, then we will have that reflected in the budget. And street lighting fund. Then we also include, if there's any capital expenditures planned, that will be included in preliminary. And then we also include the fire district budgets. Though the way that works is the fire districts adopts their own budget and it just passes through our account. So it passes from the tax collector to the town supervisor account, and then I just give that directly to the fire district. So this year, like I said, new format. But with the new format, I didn't want to get rid of the level of transparency that the board and the public is used to. So what my new format is the adopted budget plus appendices. So I would like that to be the way we adopt our budget. So our appendices include the final assessment rolls, which those, the taxable values that are on our final assessment roll is what we use to set the tax levy. I included the tentative salaries of elected officials, so those are reflected in the budget, but the schedule is within this document. And then I included what I used to build the more simple tentative budget, which is the detailed overview of the budget. So we are not going to discard this. All town accounting and bookkeeping will be kept at the same level. All the departments are monitoring their budgets at the same level that we have been. But my proposal is that that will be something that we do accounting wise, but the budget wise is less detailed. So I've included that as Appendix C. That you can see individual wages for specific jobs. You can see what we're planning on doing for equipment in each department. You can see what insurance broken out looks like. So this is the same level of detail that our previous budgets have, and we will continue to do our bookkeeping to this level of detail. So, and then in this appendix, the department requests are listed in purple, but it kind of looks black, so I understand. I should have took a different color. And then the highway budget is included in that too. And then I have the request from that I've gotten so far from the first aid squad. And then the wage schedule proposal that I used to put in the budget. This, for the preliminary budget, the appendices will be, there'll be more appendices. So I want every reference material that we're using for the budget to be included in the appendices. So that's another level of feedback that honestly, both the public, but also the town board, I think is saying what we want to include in this information so that we can offer the highest level of transparency to our taxpayers and to residents of the town. That's all I've got, unless you guys have any questions. Okay. All right. Yeah.
Congratulations on.
Thanks. We will be hopefully scheduling some additional budget meetings at the end of tonight's meeting. I guess I should just.
That's why everybody came, right?
It's to hear all about the budget, yeah. I also my proposal for the budget review is that I would like to still have all of our departments meet face to face with the town board. The value we have in that is like incredible. So having FaceTime with the town board and our departments to talk about expenditures and to go through the budget, to set the preliminary budget with our staff directly is incredibly valuable. I am recommending, and I would like to put together a budget committee that is comprised mostly of staff that is going to assist in some other more specific budget review and material prep. So the idea behind that is there's other budget codes that are not department specific that I want to have a much more detailed breakout of exactly what we're planning those expenditures on. And there's quite a bit of work that goes into that, and quite a bit of work that goes into presenting that to you. So that was my thought, is that we'll be able to use our budget meetings with the board for bigger discussions and those nitty-gritty detail things. I will have a budget review committee assist in making that really organized. And then when we're making decisions about cuts, we can actually really see what it is we're saying we're not going to spend money on, rather than sometimes we do a little bit like, oh, let's just shave some money off there without really knowing exactly what the impact of that could be. Okay, moving on to reports. And I'm only 5 minutes behind. So for the supervisor's report, I just wanted to share some of the ongoings. The municipal park bathroom is 98% complete. I'm asking the board to, I have a second voucher that I'm asking the board members to go ahead and review ahead of our abstract. That's the final payment. I'm awaiting the sign off from the engineer before I release that final payment, but I have spoken to our engineer and corresponded to our engineer, and it looks like that's coming today or tomorrow. So I have that voucher in there, and then but the work is done, our inspections have been done, the health department has done their review. So we're looking forward to maybe being able to open the bathroom for a few weeks before we close it down for the season. So very exciting. Our other projects that we have that I mentioned before, we have the Sundown Culvert. We have 3 projects that are funded by state and federal Bridge New York funds. Sundown Culvert, Project 32 bridge replacement, superstructure bridge replacement, and the Boyce Mill Bridge. So the Boyce Mill Bridge replacement project has been in process since 2022. It looks like we are on our amended schedule to do the letting of the bridge in November or December. So that's when we put that project out to bid. For streams, the type of streams that these bridges are over, you can only be in them from May until September. So the goal is always to complete the bridge project in one season, because otherwise you have to wait, and no contractor wants to do that. So we are anticipating, as long as we stay on track with what we're at right now, that will occur from next February through the fall, and then the bridge will reopen in 2026. So that is where we're at with that. The bridge will remain closed until it's replaced and completed and reopened. Sundown Culvert, we have a kickoff meeting with the Department of Transportation in not this week, but the week after. We did do a preliminary selection for Tectonic to be the consultant on that project. I had a scoping meeting with them, and I just received the scoping docs back from them and the financial projections they have for that project. So I didn't even have a chance to open that document, but as long as that's in line with the budget we submitted with the grant, that project will be moving forward. If it is not in line, that is a conversation that we need to have as a board, because Bridge New York projects cost a lot more than if the town were to just do the work, but we get 100% of that. And it also means that that bridge is done to a level of quality that we might not otherwise be able to afford. So the replacement for Sundown is something that is going to last much longer than the structure that's in place has. One item that I wanted to draw the public's attention to, but also the board, is we are at the point in the townwide reevaluation process where data collection is happening. So the town in 2024 contracted with GAR Associates to do the reval with us, and they've been working on it ever since then. They recently did a mailing on behalf of the town, so all property owners should have received a letter from the town of Rochester through GAR with data collection requests. So just wanting to let everyone know it's legitimate. We have a sample letter posted on the front page of the town website. We have contracted with GAR. They are doing this service for us. So the information is, like, if you have any questions, there's a phone number that you can call. And then if you do have If there are differences in the data that you're being sent and you'd like to send that in, it goes directly to them. So that is legitimate. If you have any questions, you can call them. You can also contact the assessor's office. So, and they can, depending on what your question is, they can assist you, or they could refer you directly back to GAR. A burn ban was, a statewide burn ban was put in place last week. As far as I've heard, it has not been lifted, even though we got a little bit of rain. So I just wanted to call attention to that. It is a typical burn ban, so the exemptions are listed. You know, the smaller campfires within a ring or in a fire pit are allowed, not like the one that we had last year where nothing was allowed. So this is like the spring, more similar to the regular spring ban that we have, but that is posted on the town website and the proclamation is there too. I recently renewed our landfill cap services with CT Nail, so they will be doing that annual report for us in the next couple months. And then I also received a correspondence from Justice Laflamme requesting that getting more court security officers be a top priority. That's all I have for the supervisor's report. Town clerk, tax collector.
Okay, so liquor license was filed with Cheatco Corporation, which is the former, it is still the Stonehouse Tavern, however, it is a new owner, so they have to apply for a new liquor license. Governor Hochul has the burn ban in effect till October 15th currently. For the month of September, $64,442.17 was collected. The tentative budget was filed with me on September 30th by Supervisor Nowen and was presented to the town board on October 1st, along with being placed on the town website as per Town Law 106. And the proposed Ackworth Fire District budget was filed with me today and was placed on the website, and the board members were emailed that as well. We are continuing the process of digitizing the building plan records and documenting and destroying records as per the state records retention and disposition schedule for both the assessor and the supervisor's office files at this time. And we are continuing to be inundated with foils from various departments that become time consuming. But that's all I have to report.
I don't have a highway report. The only department report I have is from the constabulary. 15 neighbor to neighbor and quality of life complaints in the month of September, 16 resident traffic complaints, 2 environmental complaints, and 9 court proceedings are open, 0 building department court cases or court proceedings occurred. Court proceedings closed. So the just the report says that the municipal lots are seeing an increased number of vehicles after hours. Town Park is seeing several vehicles after the park is closed. They assisted with the transport. They assisted the Ulster County's social services with the transport of a minor after the arrest of a parent. And have been assisting with EMS calls recently. So that's the only department report I have. I wanted to take a moment to recognize a couple of things. One, to Kate, our town clerk and town historian, and Heritage Day organizer. So you and the Friends of Historic Rochester, it was an amazing Heritage Day. Thank you so much for bringing our community together. And I just wanted to thank you and all of the volunteers for the incredible service that you do to our community, but especially this day where we bring everyone together. So thank you. I also wanted to thank, and I will do this in donations, but another thing that occurred in the month of September is volunteers from our ECC installed new gardens outside of the town hall. So we got a nice facelift And they just took care of it. I'll be acknowledging the volunteers and the donors in our agenda, but they just came to me. They said what their plan was, and they really organized the whole thing, got donations from our incredibly generous local farms and other providers of garden goods, and did it in like a day, and it looks so great. It inspired. It's the reason why we removed those old bushes is because they came to me and asked, and it was just the bump we needed to get that facelift. And also it's a lot safer, additionally, because we have a lot better sight lines out of the building. And I'm really excited to see it grow in. And just one of the things I wanted to call out is they were so thoughtful in this that they made a little area that we can put some seats in the garden. And what they said to me is, we thought this would be a really nice place for staff to sit. And I just thought that was really wonderful that they thought of this, our town staff, and what they might need in their day to take a break. So I just wanted to just do a special thanks for that effort. So now we are in board and committee reports. Alexis.
Yeah, so ECC, like you said, pollinator garden looks great. Keep your eyes open for lots of little pollinator zones that'll be popping up in the springtime. We're really excited about that initiative. Also, another cool thing that's been happening is there's a man, Del Umbers, and his company D2 Solutions, which gave a presentation to the ECC on closing the gap on plastics. So he's actually come up with a way to collect plastics, the ones that you can't get anywhere, like the films and all the black plastics and the numbers that are not collected in regular plastic. So once we get a little bit more developed, we'll be bringing that to the town board to find out what business pricing, or if anybody in the community is interested in participating in something like that. So really excited to have solutions for those difficult to recycle plastics. That was pretty much ECC. Ag is wondering, actually, this goes for everybody. All of my committees are wondering about budget, since it is budget season. So, let me know what I can take back to them. We could talk about specifically what we'll need moving forward. Ags, that was one thing. Ags, I'm wondering about. They're asking about the other two right to farm signs. Very, very happy with the ones that are up. Wondering if the other two are going. And that's what Carrie asked me to say today, but like I'll get specifics from her if there's any missing. And then just also wondering if we at the town board is going to take up the CPP and integrating committee feedback, and where we are in that workflow. Climate Smart has now done an energy audit on 6 town of Rochester buildings, and continuing work with the staff here on bronze status. So that is like incredibly detailed, time-consuming work, but we're making progress. We're digging into it. Also continuing to provide input into the Funding Futures public events. So what's going to be going on, really cool events happening in the coming months with Funding Futures and public partnerships. So we will have more on that in a couple weeks. And also the table at Heritage Day, everybody wanted more budget for materials, like some banners and some, things to put out, visual aids to make connecting with the community more efficient. So that's all I've got.
Charlotte?
Yeah. Well, I can start with elder care. I don't have a report for. I was not able to touch base with Constable Miller before tonight's meeting. I'm just pulling the other one. The housing committee hasn't met since they held their additional meeting last month to be able to get the short-term rental cap recommendations into you guys for the meeting. And then for the Senior and Youth Recreation Commission. Here is the report from our Recreation Director Ashley Sweeney. It says on Friday, tomorrow, October 10th, we'll be doing a youth pumpkin painting class for the children in the after-school program. The Town of Rochester Recreation Department will be hosting the annual youth Halloween party on Thursday, October 30th at the Harold Lippman Community Center. Call 845-626-2115 to sign up. Save the date for the Town of Rochester annual Thanksgiving luncheon. Everyone get out your calendars. It is Friday, November 21st this year. And a huge shout out and thank you to all who participated in Heritage Day this year. The event was incredibly successful and the Recreation Department would like to thank all who participated in the pie events and children's activities, especially the Ackworth firefighters who agreed to be pied in support of the rec department. We're incredibly grateful for them in the community and thank you all. And that's all I got.
All right, so planning board, met with the planning board chair, vice chair, and our planning consultant a few weeks ago to talk through a few items that they're tracking. So I know we have the secretary appointment on the agenda tonight, so that's good. They had sent us a letter about possibly looking into water studies and some of the low well yield areas of town based on some applications they're seeing. We started having a discussion and just want to make sure it stays on our agenda moving forward. They also asked about possibly requiring certificate of title as a requirement for subdivisions, which would show whether there are any restrictions on parcels. So that was something that has come up where they didn't have all the information and it would have been helpful to have that requirement. So something we can look at. They also had questions about how we currently handle road maintenance agreements with private roads. I think our current practice is if they're adding more than one house, that you need permission of everyone on the road, and they were wondering if that's something that should just be a general requirement for all applications. They're also seeing a lot of requests for waivers on some of the new prime farmland requirements. They were curious whether the intent of the board there was that the planning board should have, you know, wide discretion on such waivers. So something we might want to consider and kind of, if that's not the case, you know, consider changes that make that clearer how that should work. We had a training earlier today that several of us attended that was put on by the Association of Towns that went over things like wetlands, ag uses, affordable housing. I thought it was a great presentation. In terms of meetings, they had 4 topics on the agenda last meeting, which included public hearings on 2 projects. Next week, the meeting is actually going to be on Tuesday because of the holiday on Monday. And that agenda is posted on our website. Nothing major on the zoning board of appeals. I spoke with the chair earlier today. I know they have a meeting next Thursday. There's one item on the agenda and a public hearing, so that's at 6:30 here. Ambulance improvement districts. So a few weeks ago, Supervisor Nowen and I met with Ulster County EMS. They gave us an update in terms of where the county is currently with better supporting EMS across the county, as well as some of their current plans to bolster both BLS and ALS, including some of the additional revenue that they're going to make available. So it's good to hear. They also offered to meet with us and meet with our committees as we look for ways to specifically address EMS in town, to include looking at contracts, looking at ways we could potentially fund that and make sure that we have coverage. So we'll absolutely take them up on that. I know that KFAS was on site for Heritage Day this past weekend, so we should thank them being there for that. We received budgets from both of the squads, which we'll use for planning for FY26. And I'm also scheduling meetings with 2 committees to go over any questions they have and start talking through next year's budgets and the contracts. And then last on the free exchange, no real updates there. I stopped by earlier this week. Everything looks great. Volunteers are doing a great job of keeping it organized there. Also, I had emailed someone about the possibility of looking into hosting repair cafes in town. And I wasn't sure if that was something that the ECC or Climate Smart Committee might be interested in helping with.
Do you have a contact? Because there's like a group that
I
does
do.
that.
It's our Rotary, yeah.
Yeah, well, there's one contact in like the entire Hudson Valley
Yeah,
and in Westchester, but
I
there
have
are, there are,
Factors presidents number if you want it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you just, like,
Yeah, I
so-
can do a little.
yeah, so we
read of
can,
that.
thank you.
we can coordinate.
Yeah, sure.
There's a lot of information I can go into. That's it.
So Heritage Day was a huge success. It was great seeing a community come together to celebrate and support our town and local organizations. A huge thank you to the Ackworth Fire Company for all their help, with prepping, cooking, and helping everything throughout the day. Without them, we would not be able to make this such a success. So I'm glad to see many of them here tonight. So thank you all as well. And the HPC presented their 2025 Preservation Awards. A house restoration project was awarded to Michael and Donna Brown of Clove Road. A barn restoration was awarded to Bob Anderberg and Elaine Laflemme on Lawrence Hill Road. And a bungalow colony preservation award was given to Los Bombaros, which is known to many as the Fireman's Camp on Medicahonks Road. And those were the 3 recipients for this year. And that's it.
Great, so. 3 minutes behind. We made up for lost time. Okay, great. So now it's time for the public comment portion of our meeting. I'm guessing that we will have public comment tonight, so I'm gonna go through the way the board conducts public comment. So this period in our meeting is meant for persons, members of the public to address the town board directly. We don't have rules of topics because what we want is to hear from the public. But we do, one of our guidelines for this period is that remarks should be addressed to the board, not to members of the audience, not in the form of discussion or debate, so no back and forth. So when someone else is talking, just let them talk, even if you agree with them, but let them talk and we'll move from person to person. One thing also is that the board, we've adopted our meeting guidelines in our organizational meeting, and we do require that all public comment be made respectfully. So just no disparaging type remarks, though we want people to share what they have to say with the board. Another thing that we like to tell everyone is that the town board will not respond to questions or comments made during your public comment or during this period. So you may ask us questions, you may pose topics to us, but we aren't going to respond. We'll just go from person to person. But then our next agenda item is called town board member time. And that's the portion of the meeting that we've reserved for board members to address any questions. So any board member is welcome to respond on their own, but just once we get to town board member time, the public participation portion of the meeting is closed. So we'd like to split that up. I like to, given that we might have more comments than usual, I'd like to ask everyone to keep their comments to 5 minutes or less. And what we do is I first see who's here in present would like to address the board. Once we've exhausted everyone who'd like to speak, is able to speak once, we will turn to those who've joined us virtually, give them a chance, and then I usually turn back and ask if anyone else has anything else they'd like to add. That includes so we try not to have anyone speak twice in those first rounds, but if there's any follow-up, I usually ask after everyone's had a chance to speak once. So with that, I will open the town board member time. I do ask that you share, I'm sorry, public comment, I'm sorry. I will open the public comment. We ask that you share your name, but you're not required to, so, yes.
Thank you very much. My name is John Dunning. I'm currently the chairman of the board for the Ackworth Fire District. I've been a member here for 37 years. A little background about the fire district, I think you already know, but we cover 88 square miles. We're the 12th largest district in the state as far as fire departments go. We currently have about 60 firefighters in the Ackworth Fire District. Recently, I mean, we're all very dedicated to the town, to the members, people in the community. But recently we've had a couple problems with the constabulary with two of them. Chief Miller and Tom Silla. We've had some incidents with them, some run-ins. It's got to the point where we had to have our attorney send you a letter. It's continuing. It is a problem. And I kind of, it's not gonna affect the way that we do business in the town. We're gonna still do our job. We just really ask that the town board considers something to do about it. Because the next level would be to contact our attorney again, and we'd rather not do that. You know, it should be addressed. I know our assistant district chief Peter Nelson wants to say a couple things too, a little bit further about the incidents. But that's about it, all that I have. I thank you for your time. We just want to bring light to it, on what's going on. And I think it's gonna fester into a real bad problem if something isn't done. So anyway, thank you very much for your time.
Would anyone else like to address the board?
Thank you, President Allen, for Peter Nelson, Deputy District Chief for Ackworth Fire District. As Chair Dunning indicated, we've had some incidents with a couple of members of the constabulary, and it's not all. I want to make an emphasis on that. There are other members of the force that we don't have any issues with, but there are a couple of individuals that have and there are individuals that have been patrolling. And it's been a problem for us numerous times. I'd like to make everybody aware that they are not dispatched by the 911 center. And that's one of my big concerns, is because we don't know when they're coming, who's coming. Sheriffs don't necessarily know that, state police don't necessarily know that, and that leads to no communication and potential serious problems. We've had a couple of situations when they have come on calls with EMS that fire has come to that involve both agencies, and we work very well with the KPAS and Marbletown. And I believe Marbletown has also followed up. All of this has been documented and submitted to the town board. So we're just following it up. I think at this point, I wanted to state this because the public needs to be aware of it. And so I just want to bring it out into the open. We had a situation where they were at a scene and they didn't do work that they could have done, like traffic control on a busy road. They stood and talked and got in the way. And there have been other incidents when they almost got into a fight, one of our members on a scene of a car accident, motorcycle accident. We just don't need that. It creates an additional danger. It creates a hazard to our members. It creates a hazard to the public. And it needs to be addressed. We had an incident when we had, and this goes back, this has been going on for a while with one of these members in 2018, where they responded to a carbon monoxide call at 1 o'clock in the morning and told the police there was no problem, they could go back in the building. And our protocols, everybody's aware of it, we pack up with air packs and go in with meters and measure it. And it was a fatal level of carbon monoxide potentially in the building. And somebody who was not trained or authorized or equipped was telling the homeowner or the occupants that it was okay to go back. And that kind of dangerous situation is something that we really need to address. And it also was an attempt to take over the incident command from the incident commander at that time, which is unacceptable. I know Chief Davis is the district chief, and I feel very strongly we are at our breaking point with this. We can't allow our volunteer members to be treated like this. And even as recently as after the fireworks on Heritage Day, there was an incident with one of the constables that didn't want multiple of our members to go into the scene where we were standing by because of fireworks and the burn ban, and got into a discussion with them and did not want to allow them into the scene where we had our apparatus. And after the scene, the same constable tried to eject Chief Davis and myself from the scene. While just after the fireworks truck that left the scene, and so we were hanging to make sure that there are no embers that could have come up. And in the 21 years that I've been in the fire service as a volunteer in this town, I've never been treated like that by any agency, state police, sheriff's department, and any other fire department. Never had experience like that, and it rubbed me the wrong way, obviously, and we're not gonna allow that to continue. And I'm urging the board to take this on. I trust you're addressing it. I imagine it's a personnel issue. I'm not gonna talk about that. But I just want the public to know that this is an ongoing issue. We wanna settle it. We wanna take care of it. We don't wanna make it go any further. It's when people our firefighters are extremely dedicated, get up in the middle of the night. Last night, they were up until 2:30 in the morning on a fire in a neighboring town, and offer as volunteers. And it's not easy to get people to come do this job as a volunteer. It takes a lot of training, it takes incredible dedication, and to have individuals that are effectively taunting us on a scene is terrible for morale of our people. And my fear is it's gonna escalate. I tend to be a person who wants to de-escalate situations as much as possible. And so far I've been successful with that, I think, with these individuals. I can't promise that that's gonna be able to happen if it continues. So don't think I'm overstating it when I say this is an urgent matter that needs to be addressed by the town board with these individuals. And make sure I didn't miss anything. And I know you're aware of it, the board is aware of it because we have been documenting it, carefully documenting it. But I just want to bring it to the public's attention because I know if it's a personnel issue, it can't be discussed publicly. So I just want to throw it out there. Thank you for your time and appreciate what you guys do.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board? Yes.
Yeah, my name's Nicholas Lapp, not a fireman, I used to be. And I just wanted to know, with these constables, there's gotta be a chain of command somewhere. And I know you can't answer me now, but somebody's gotta be in charge of these people, or are they just running around uncontrolled? Because that's not a good, scenario. That's all I gotta say, is like to know, who's in charge of them. And keeping them in check, because apparently nobody is at this point. They're harassing, us, they're harassing the firemen. People in town, they're running around like, it's just out of control. The whole thing with these guys. That's it.
Would anyone else like to address the board? Jerry? And
I
then,
want to make sure that
okay.
Jerry Fonino, and I have separate comment, but I want to speak in results of what was just brought up. As the emergency management director for the town, I'll be pretty close to Peter Nelson, 20 years, I believe. Hey, I gotta get a new card, by the way. Not to put you on the spot. However, just so this town board is aware of it, I know Kate is aware of it, but there was some issues going back a number of years, Kate, am I correct? In which there was some problems prior to you being on the board, and in fact, prior supervisor under Supervisor Baden. And myself, two other individuals who and my background is, as you mostly should be aware, is law enforcement. However, this is a role that I volunteered to do, and I think before this becomes a real emergency, because I'm listening, and I have to tell you, I was made aware of some of these things that just recently took place. And having said that, I think it's time that we, including myself, and I'm not looking to add more work to my volunteer status here, but I think we need to have a sit down and there needs to be some guidelines set forth in which everybody knows what their job is, and those jobs can get done and performed professionally and without any hindrance to doing that job. We all should be working together. So I think it's just listening to last three speakers here, I think it would be imperative that we take this on head on and end it before it becomes something of a real danger situation. So I'm available to, get together and let's try to work something out. I can give a background at that point that we did put forth some advisory, if you will, and all of us had well over 50 years of law enforcement experience. But we also knew there was a problem. That's going back a number of years ago. If I may change gears over what I had come here to speak of, I would like to just say, listening to the budget. And I took down a couple notes here, and I find it interesting that everything seems to be going up. On a personal level, I'm gonna give you a couple things that I'm sure I'm not alone in some of the things that I'm dealing with my family is dealing with. And being both a resident of 50+ years in the town, as well as being close to that, being also a landlord in the town. So it is, if you will, a necessary business for the town. So I'm gonna just throw out some things that all of the board needs to be aware that when you see increases in the cost of these things, to include the increase every year, if you will, of, I understand it, pay scales and things of such, the union being 3%, town, I would like to see that kind of more coordinated at 4%. But I do understand there are different things as to why you might have to increase that. School tax was, and again, this board doesn't decide on that, but we all have to pay that. And take it from somebody who has 1-star program deduction, and the rental home that I have doesn't have that, it's not afforded. I get that. A lot of people don't understand that, get 1-star deduction. So the tenants end up having to pay towards that. The school increase this year was also 4.2%, and we're seeing that quite often. I saved this card just for tonight. This is from, most people should have received it, the board should have received it from Central Hudson. And just so that there's no question as to what I'm saying here, what you can expect, what's changing and why, and it explains approved by the Public Service Commission, which determines all increases to Central Hudson. So I am simply reading here, what is the average electric bill will go up plus $5.43 per month. I can tell you ours for both of those homes have gone up quite a bit prior to that. And the average gas bill is going to be going up $7.73 per month. This is interesting. The HEAP, what is that? I'm sorry, it's just the HEAP, we all know what the HEAP is, the assistance program. That's actually going down. In simple terms, what's happening here is they're robbing Peter and paying Paul. So, no offense, Peter. But the bottom line here is that we're seeing all these increases. All of you are also seeing that and feeling it. And on top of that, we're seeing a brand new assessment as interesting. You brought it up. I got 3 of them today in the mail. And I'm sure that's going to be showing more increases to that. So with all of that in mind, oh, by the way, the last one, as far as what I have to say just two last things here. Homeowners insurance. What happened last year? The horrendous, horrible loss of life and what took place from the Carolinas, Tennessee and so forth. And it's just horrendous to think about it. Let me tell you what happened just with my insurance coverage. Increase this year alone, 25% on the rental home and 10% on our residents. That's a lot of money. We're talking $400+ went up. By the way, no claims in over 30 years, no claims. So that, all right, these are things that you all have to take into consideration. The last thing I want to bring up is the Whitfield Road. I know it's got a temporary repair. That road is still and will continue to be an extremely dangerous road to travel on. And the temporary repair, because I've seen it before, is only going to be that. And I've already witnessed as, again, watching out for cars going off the road. Last winter, 2 cars went off down and the trees stopped those cars. And from what I understand through the fire department, there were no injuries, but those cars both went quite the distance off the road. Thank you for listening. And whenever you want to bring in that other conversation, I'm all ears.
Luis Rodriguez. I'd like to bring attention to the board here. It seems like you already know that the constables, or I should say, 2 individuals, are being a little bit overzealous on what they're doing. Because I had an incident happen on, matter of fact, it was a memorial for Mr. Lapp's mom. We were stopped by the constable. Meanwhile, he already had a gentleman stopped in the opposite direction. He came to my daughter who was driving and actually started screaming at her to stop. We stopped. And then we told him it's a bad situation that you got here. You got one vehicle going this way, stopped, and you got us stopped here. Now you're creating a traffic jam. And as soon as we said that, vehicles came. Now he's got both of us stopped. The other guy just took off and he's screaming at us. Now, my daughter lowered the window because he kept banging on the window. We don't know who this gentleman is. So the individual that did that, we were telling him, we're gonna call the cops. He said, call the cops. So my daughter called her husband, who is the station commander in Hurley, and told him, and he's snatched her license, PBA card, and he said, I don't care. So if these individuals don't care, and the way they approach vehicles screaming and not identifying himself, and then we ask him, who are you? He said, we're town constable. We don't know because we were never confronted with a town constable. So for all that being said, he lied to the trooper about my daughter telling him something. So I can't understand why you got 2 individuals giving problems to the individuals in this town. Why can't we eliminate the 2 individuals that are giving us problems and put someone new? Spend the money wisely instead of harassing all the people in the town. It seems like they're just going around trying to find something. But also on top of that, every time I've already heard, because the station commander in Allenville spoke to the station commander in Hurley, which is my son-in-law, said that it's the usual with him. Every time they have an incident, he has to call a trooper or a sheriff or a police officer because he doesn't know how to take care of what he's doing. So I just want to enlighten you that there's other things going on with these constables that you may have not heard of, but I am definitely, appalled that you got two individuals doing it over and over and nothing has been done. Please, do something. Thank you.
Let's see, can I see if there's other people who haven't spoken yet? Is there anyone else who would like to address the board? Who's in person? Yes,
Not about that,
okay.
but my name is Rick Gray. And it's unfortunate that Mr. Fry, the highway superintendent's not here tonight. It's one of my major concerns about coming tonight, with the understanding that he's requesting $500,000 in trucks. And if that's so, my question was to him tonight, he was here, is why two? Two trucks. Why, that should be better budgeted than that. My other concern is I understand that he doesn't ever come to a town board meeting, never comes to an audit meeting, never. That's no transparency whatsoever. I think it should be a requirement of the highway superintendent to come to these meetings. I have other things to say, but that's the major thing. Thank you.
Thank you. John, before I let you speak again, I just wanted to see if there's anyone on Zoom who wanted to
You want to
talk.
do that first?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then go. Is the person called Film Project here to address the board?
No,
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
It's me again. Also, real quick, I don't know what their scope of work is, but I live right on 209, just past Voice Mill Road if you're going south.
I wasn't.
Those constables travel past my house at very high rates of speed with lights and sirens on. And coming to the chief's point, is nobody knows these guys are on the road running lights and sirens. County don't know, 911 center don't know, sheriffs don't know, nobody, they don't know. But they're exceeding 100 miles an hour past my house. They will also sit at Voice Mill Road and face south and waiting to pull people over. They pull people over on 209, they should have tickets. Like, I don't know if that's within their scope of work. But I don't know if the town board knows about that. Anyway, I just wanted to bring that up as well. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else want to address the board before we close the public comment portion of the meeting? Okay, I'll go ahead and close the public comment portion of the meeting. Thanks everyone for coming out. So our next agenda item is town board member time. Do we have any?
I just want to make one response, just to highlight what Peter said, is that this is relating to personnel, so not everything can be talked about publicly, unfortunately. But I want to thank everyone for coming out and informing us of any issues that you guys have seen.
Yeah, none of this works, our volunteers are sacred, that anybody's being disrespected and abused, it makes my blood boil. And I just really appreciate the public coming out and letting everybody bring a little bit of sunlight to this issue. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to
Well, I wanted to reiterate some of what was said earlier in terms of thanking all the volunteers for Heritage Day, Kate, the rec department, fire district, for cooking and agreeing to get pied, even those who negotiated higher rates for that. Great cause. Couldn't think of a better person to get a pie in the face, but in terms of transparency, I just want to say for the board and the public, I was actually present after the fireworks. And so in terms of that discussion, I intend to recuse myself because I don't want to, influence any of that. So I just wanted to say that publicly to make sure that people are aware.
Yes, this does touch on personnel matters. I think we as a board want there to be cohesion and unity. I think we all like the idea of peace officers and to have cooperation. So I just want to state that that's definitely a goal that we have, and we want to make sure that that is what is happening. And it sounds like we have, the board would like to review and discuss this. So that we will be making sure that we have the time to do that. Okay. And then there was a question. What was the question? So I did want to answer two questions. One, well, I only see one of them. There are two trucks that were requested. I put in the tentative budget only one. It's one of the reasons why I wanted the superintendent here so that we could discuss that. But because he's not here, this discussion of the truck that I have, I actually was just gonna strike and save that for a time that he is present with us, so. All right, board ready to move on?
The question was who.
Oh, I see. Yeah, so there is right now, the department head of the constables is me. So I am the department head and I'm the only person. This has been a public discussion that we've had. There's one civil service position that's called constable. They're all the same. It doesn't stipulate supervision or supervisory authority. So there isn't a chain of command that's within the civil service system, which is what we use. So I say this frequently, but it is my job as the town supervisor to follow state, town, federal law and town policies. So as the supervisor and as the department head, you know, we've been trying to look at that structure and see what is the best way that we can address the needs to have, you know, some kind of structure within the constables with what the reality is for what we are able to do within civil service. Now, there's definitely conventions within law enforcement and emergency services departments that I understand people are used to, but we're trying to make sure that we're working within those titles, and we have been working with Ulster County Personnel Department on some ideas with that. So we do have administrative duties that in our organizational meeting we assign to Rich Miller, Constable Miller. He is the one that the report that I read and the elder care program, and if you call the line, he would be the one answering. So a lot of communication and scheduling does go through him, but ultimately the supervision and rests with the day-to-day supervision rests with me. In New York State law, one of the ways in which constables are differentiated from a police department, which is an independent department that is not does not answer, you know, to the board. Constables in the law, they answer to the town board. So the town board says what they can do and when, basically. And that's in the law, and it's also in the authorizing resolution that we pass at our organizational meeting every year. So that is in the minutes that you can see it. As peace officers, there's a lot that they do as peace officers. They have many of the same duties and abilities that a police officer would have, but it is different. The police officers do have more. So the laws that comes from are cited in the resolution that we passed, so it's a public document. And we can make sure that that's available if anyone wants to see that. I didn't come prepared for the HET tonight. But the key takeaway is that the town board is the reporting body that the constables report to, and the town board says which of those duties they want to happen. It's obviously, like everything, very complicated and nuanced, and there's nuance and gray areas around the edges. But that is the generalized answer to that question. One of the main budgetary things that our constables do is they are our court security. So that is like at our town court and at court night. And we have regular constables that are scheduled for that. So that is like one of the items that's listed, but there's others. But again, that the authority to exercise those duties rests with the town board. Okay. All right.
We done, or can I?
Can you talk? We can't talk anymore.
I closed the public comment portion. I have another one at the end, or you can give me a call or schedule a time to meet. Okay. All right. So I was just answering the questions that came up in the public comment portion, but so now we're moving on to resolutions.
I make a motion to, that the town board accepts and approves the minutes of the September 2025 business meeting and the September 25th, 2025 workshop meeting. As circulated by the town clerk, thanks to you.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Let's just pause and let it clear it out so that people won't feel this. Oh, wow, okay. Then I'm
It's not,
I appreciate Peter. Right here.
turn that light switch on.
The front, it doesn't look like the front lights are on. Okay.
No, it's a public meeting. All right. So moving on to acceptance of the donations. I'll make a motion that the town board accepts the donations received from the Rondout Valley Education Foundation for summer program trip Empire State Aero Sciences reimbursement in the amount of $1,022.08. We're receiving $98 in cash donations for the recreation department collected at Heritage Day. $392 of cash donations for the recreation department from the pie contest and auction. And $259.75 in cash donations on Heritage Day from Chuck and Leanne Warren on behalf of Stewart Shops. And then I'd also like the board to accept the donations that we received for the garden, and I'd like to recognize those donors from Catskill Native Nurseries, 2 birdhouses, from Bell's Christmas Tree Farm, 2 yards of topsoil, from the Community Compost Company, 2 yards of compost and delivery, from Treadlight Farm, approximately 100 native plant bugs, landscape fabric and delivery, and from Umbacus Excavating pea gravel.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carries. And then I also would just wanted to recognize the volunteers that we had for that. John Messerschmidt, Nicole Ortiz, Kurt Sutherland, Greta Sutherland, Judith Karpova, Felisa, and Matt Dell. So just real quick, I wanted to have I need a couple more signatures on this voucher from Capital Fund. Is for the bathroom. Before I do the acceptance of the applicant. Okay, great. So I'll make a motion that the town of Rochester Town Board accepts abstract 10A and approves the payments in the following amounts. General fund prepaid $245.10. The unpaid bills in the amount of $36,849.91. Highway fund $57,202.24. Capital fund $94,435. Street lighting fund is 0 and escrow is $15,601.51. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Next we have the budget modifications. General fund, I'll make the motion that the town board approves the budget modifications to the 2025 general fund budget by the town supervisor in the capacity of as budget officer. So that will be to subtract $24,000 from budget code 8020.111 planning personnel. And move 10,000 of that to 8664.115 code enforcement personnel clerk part-time, making that budget code move from 0 to 10,000, and move 14,000 of that, 24,000 to 8020.442 planning professional services.
Second.
Any discussion? So this is, we had budgeted the secretary to the planning board and the zoning board of appeals from 2 budget codes. As discussed, we've been planning on funding a part-time clerk, assigning the clerk those duties, and having that position in the code enforcement office. So they will also do clerk duties in the code enforcement office. So that's what we're doing. That 10,000 will carry us through and then some until the end of the year. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, motion carries. The next motion is for highway fund budget modifications. I do have one edit from what's on the agenda. It's the last line. So the town board approves, I'll make a motion that the town of Rochester Town Board approves budget modifications to the 2025 highway fund budget by the town supervisor in the capacity as budget officer. That will be subtracting 6,000 from 9060.805 employee benefits insurance buyout. Move 4,000 of that to 9060.8 employee benefits other. Move 2,000 of that to 5110.116 maintenance of roads MEO seasonal. And then subtract $12,000 from 9010.8 retirement. And move that to 4142.418 sand.
Can you read that?
4142.418, so it's just not digital. Sand, not salt.
Is it 4-1 or 5? She just said 4, but that's.
Oh, I'm sorry, 5. Well, got too much going on in my brain.
5142.417.
5142.418 is the what should be sand, not salt.
Sand.
From what's typed on.
Second.
Do I have a second? Any discussion? Do you guys like it when I explain what these are doing?
Is that one for sand?
That one is for sand, so we used way more salt and sand than we budgeted, so I've been moving money into there. And we need to fill the shed.
And an employee took insurance that had the buyout. last-
No, so basically, we have had more vacation buyouts than we budgeted for.
Oh,
And I wanted to make sure we had enough to get us through the end of the year. I over budgeted for the insurance buyout and highway fund. So I just took money from that and put it into so employee benefits others where we do vacation buyouts from. But we've just had way more than we planned. And then the other one is for that seasonal position. I don't know if I under budgeted or if we're just using that position a little bit more. But I just moved that to make sure that we had enough to get us through the snow season. So just bringing everything
Yes.
up to where it needs to be. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carries. So then the next agenda item is transfer of funds from unallocated fund balance to capital fund. I'll make the motion that the Town of Rochester Town Board authorizes the transfer of $42,000 from general fund balance to the capital fund to cover expenditures related to the municipal park bathroom project, and further authorizes the town supervisor to return the sum of $42,000 back to the general fund balance when the Ulster County Municipal Park subaward reimbursement is received.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carries.
I think it's fine.
What?
I think that's last second. Sorry.
Oh, it's Kate's call, I guess. Okay. I heard your voice. My throat is starting to hurt.
Closer.
Okay. So would you guys like me to read this or just insert the names? So I'll make the motion for the appointment of the part-time clerk, planning and zoning secretary, as presented on the agenda, but we'll insert Meg Ford at the rate of $23.75 for 25 hours per week.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carries. And then the next motion I have an edited, just made something up, but we're supposed to do a different resolution, so I'm gonna read it. So I'll make a motion that the Town of Rochester Town Board authorizes the supervisor to make nomination to the Ulster County Executive the name of James Beasley to serve as the Town of Rochester representative on the Ulster County Environmental Management Council.
Second.
Any discussion? This will be his second term on that, so he's getting reappointed. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carries. So the next one, I presented this law to you guys last week. I thought we could sort of call it, because I've just been having X's in it. I was gonna propose that we just go ahead and schedule the public hearing, but I was even thinking of doing it in November. So our November meeting that I was thinking of is the workshop, which I believe is the 13th, right?
That's the second Thursday.
Yeah, we changed the business meeting, not the workshop thing. This is the business would have been on Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Oh,
No,
it is the business meeting.
yeah, the
Or-
business meeting. I don't.
The business meeting is the 13th and the workshop
Workshop
meeting
meeting
is
is
the
the
6th
6th,
or the 7th. Okay. But I was thinking of doing it on the 13th.
Wait, when is the workshop meeting? The 27th?
No, it's the 6th.
Oh, wait, that one's before then?
Yeah, that's what we did. So I have the minutes
Okay.
in front of me. We
I knew we did something.
we did something weird.
We did something real weird. It was very early.
Oh, wrong minutes. Wrong year. I was looking at last year's minutes. Okay. I'm pretty sure it's the 6th or the 17th. 6th and the 13th. Regular business meeting is November 13th and the workshop meeting is November 6th. So I was going to suggest that we schedule the public hearing for the 13th.
Here.
Okay. So, can we rename it local law? Have we done a D yet?
I don't think so.
We've done a C.
I don't think we've done D. Yeah, let's do D.
Let me just see what I have. I want to make sure I say all the right words, because I forgot to put it in. Okay.
I can do.
Hmm?
I was just saying I can make one.
Oh, sure.
I make a motion that the Town of Rochester Town Board schedule a public hearing for local law D of 2025 tax exemption for accessory dwelling units. Oh, title tax exemption.
Oh,
Oh, that's how I did that. I turned my page.
no, I'm sorry.
Oh, I
Sorry.
see, I did not speak. Local law amending the code of, write that one here.
Mhm.
Just cross out that part that said local law. Kate, a local law amending the code of the town of Rochester to provide a real property tax exemption for the creation of accessory dwelling units. Parentheses RETL subsection 421. P asterisk 2 parentheses. And that, I'll get you, that we scheduled for Thursday, November 13th. At 6:30 p.m. to be held at the Harold Lippman Community Center, 15 Tobacco Road, Ackport, New York, 12404. And request that the town clerk kindly publish and circulate the thing she's supposed to.
Noted.
Mary Lou would
Flawless.
flawless that.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Mary Lou would.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Are we ready to do this next one, Councilman Coleman?
Yeah, but can we schedule the hearing? We haven't, can we talk about it and then schedule a hearing tonight?
We need the draft in front of us to schedule the public hearing.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's in the drive.
it has to be physically. Let's do it at our next meeting.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about it or, I mean, Mary Lou?
We can talk about it in our discussion items. So I thought we could schedule the public hearing for the budget just ahead, but we can't.
We can't, right? We can't do it until we do the 10 to.
No, we can't
Whatever
do it until we have the version that we're doing in front of us. But we are doing it on November 6th. So I think we should just plan on that, and once we have the prelim. For the selection of the dental policy, I think we are going to just stay with the one that we had. So. Gonna pull that up so I don't say the wrong thing. So I'll make a motion that the Town of Rochester Town Board renews the CDPHP plan. For 2020, for the 2025-2026 season, the traditional option. And, authorizes the supervisor. to Sign.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carries. So it's the same cost, for that. The next, I presented the recycling policy to you guys at our last meeting. I put it in our Dropbox folder and it's available publicly. I have one amendment to make to it. So, I would like to, I can put that in the motion, but the Climate Smart Committee said that there's a requirement in the bronze certification for that the recycling bins have to be placed where there is a trash bin. So I'm gonna put that in the policy. 'Cause that's how we go. So I'd like to make a motion that the town of Rochester Town Board adopts the town operations recycling policy as presented. And amended to state that the bins need to be located where there is a trash bin.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carries. We do have a second public comment portion. I forgot to say this.
No, you said.
No, you did. You said we have one later on.
Okay, we do have a second public comment portion, so if anyone who's here would like to address the board again. We have a spot in the meeting to do so. Is there anyone who'd like to address the board at this time?
Rick Gray again, I'm just sitting here to refresh myself. I used to be on the town board for like 10 years. Probably longer ago than most of you are old, but it's refreshing. And I stayed just to refresh myself to it again, and I probably sat with 3 different supervisors. And it's impressive to hear, what was your first name, Aaron? You're doing a heck of a job, I think, from what I can see tonight. That's all I'm gonna say.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else would like to address the board? Yes.
I'd like to agree with them.
It's making me blush. Oh, thank you.
For that, I'm going home.
Okay. All right, so I'll close the public comment portion. So we just have a few discussion items. One is scheduling October budget meetings. I think so. I think we need at least 2. Because I need to schedule all the departments with the board, and it's nice to have some flexibility. I also think, well, our workshop meeting, I don't have anything planned.
Yeah,
that.
didn't we hold that open?
So I think that needs to be a meeting, because we do need a meeting where we're pulling everything together and scheduling the public hearing. What notice do we need for the public hearing for the preliminary?
You mean time?
Yeah,
I believe it's 5 days.
okay. So what works for you guys? Did you guys look at your calendars and like what works for you so far?
I'm free. Up to electricity, Michael, I'm free.
I'm free too next week. I just need to be able to plan because I will be helping my mother has surgery. So I'll be back shortly.
All right, please no Monday.
Yeah,
But
next
I
week,
can get back in the evening. I just.
next week is
Indigenous people.
pretty busy and it's a short week, so and that Thursday is a ZBA meeting. That Wednesday could be an option. And then we have a meeting on the 23rd. So we could schedule a second meeting that week, or I think we should think about scheduling something the last week of October. Because then that could be when we are finalizing the preliminary budget and we could schedule hearing then.
You're saying do 3 or do something that we could.
Two, maybe, like, I think if we could schedule 2 meetings,
So schedule one additional to the 23rd.
schedule 2 additional.
2 additional, nothing.
Just because we will have some business to conduct. And those really long meetings where we're doing business and budget are just not,
When's Zolly back?
just in a couple days. What do you guys think about the 15th? Is that? Or would you rather do 2 meetings the week of the 20th?
I can probably do the 15th, but it may be better to start at like 7. Or I can just get. I just come late.
I was gonna ask to do it earlier.
Actually, no, I can probably do that.
The other, is this board available during the day? Because that's,
I'm available.
I could try to schedule departments. I don't know, that was just a thought,
I can do that.
I can do the daytime one.
I could do daytime.
What, do you guys want me to reach out to you individually, get your availability individually, and then I'll schedule, yeah,
To make your life easier, just.
we could do that, because the day, I wasn't prepared for the day, it was just something I thought of. Would you guys want to schedule 2 during the day meetings? Or 1 at night and 1 during the day? Because we could schedule the one the week of. The last week of October, we could, if we wanted to have that be in the evening, we could schedule that.
But I would just make them both during the day, if that seems easy.
We
So I'll
can.
get it.
I just need to check next week. I don't know when I may need to be.
I feel like
Okay.
that would be easier for our departments too. What if we save those 2 for trying to schedule the departments, since we're here
Okay.
during the workday then, and then we'll keep the workshop meeting like that'll be us.
Yeah, okay,
trying
so
to
I will
pull it all
pull,
together.
I will pull. For that, and I will just schedule them as the supervisor, as the chair of the board. I mean.
I'm not opposed to another one at night, but it seems easier for maybe being able to get to all the departments if you have
Yeah.
2 days time.
Okay.
Available.
And then at our workshop, I think then we should think about inviting boards, sounds like maybe commissions. The ZBA and the planning board, I'll be doing those budgets with them, but yeah, we should hear from the committee.
Nice, yeah, 'cause that's when they normally.
Yeah.
I like.
Okay. Councilman Coleman, I was wondering if you could give an overview of what you've discovered for the ambulance improvement district changes. Because we were talking about making a law, and then I just thought it might be helpful for you to, you've made some progress on that.
Yeah, so I guess in talking with the 2 squads. The issue is not necessarily related to the tax districts right now. It has to do with how the different squads are being dispatched. So based off of how close they are to different sites, there's an interest in coordinating through county EMS to have KFAS be dispatched to certain addresses on towpath and have certain addresses on the berm section, on the section of Berm Road that is in the Alligerville hamlet area. So not the section of Berm Road over there, to have that be dispatched to Marbletown First Aid Unit. So the squads seem to be in agreement. I've talked to them individually. And so when I talk to county EMS, what they need is basically a letter that's going to be signed by the board and by chiefs from each squad saying that they acknowledge that they want to change these addresses. And then Ulster County EMS, once they have that, can change who's being dispatched to those different addresses. So I think the requirement is, and I've started working on this, is to just get a list of all the addresses. And the reason it's taking a little longer is some of the parcels don't have homes on them, so they don't technically have addresses. So I have to check the SBL numbers, put that into a letter, and then I've talked to the chiefs from both squads. We'll get them to sign off on it, bring it to the board will sign off, and then we submit that to county, and then they tell us what the next next steps are in the process.
Okay,
And then I assume that we may want to look at the tax districts, because if it's different squads responding to the area, we may want to reassess whether those parcels should also swap taxing districts so that it gets dispersed. But that's an actual change to the law. And I think we'll have to talk to Mary to figure out what that process is.
okay. In terms of the letter, you're drafting that and then
Yes.
you'll bring that and then we can do that as a board. So that might be something we do at our next meeting?
Yep.
Okay. All right, I wanted to, do you have any other things that you would like to say on that topic?
No.
Okay, anyone else on that topic? Okay, next topic, I put this because our summer season is over and we wanted to look at amplified sound ordinance, outreach to the community. It's just, we've kind of dropped this and then I started to get outreach about it again. So I wanted to see what the board thinks and if,
Do you have a sense of how it went? I know there was different enforcement that was happening and we were checking sound levels. Were the complaints the same? More?
well, I guess I recently learned that I thought that because we hadn't been getting complaints, it meant that there was no issue, but then I spoke with a couple people that was not the case. They just decided not to complain. To put in complaints. I mean, I didn't mean to say it like that. They decided not to put in complaints. So that was, they definitely are being addressed when the code enforcement office hears of them. It's for that type of thing, for a venue or like a business, it's hard for the code enforcement office to know if someone's it's not like a visual thing that you can see. You like have to be there.
Well, we do have a couple of venues that have changed ownership and also changed business structure. So I think it's a good opportunity. It's a good time to maybe check in with them.
With those individual businesses, yeah. I know that's happening for one of them. Do you know what's the other business?
I mean, I'm not like pointing anybody out, but I know Verona Market stopped having like a lot of service at the.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. I mean, what do you guys think? Should I keep putting this on agendas? Do we wanna pick it up actively, or do we wanna wait till budget's over, then reconsider?
Well, it sounds like what we want to talk about is outreach, and I think that's something that's at least worth doing. Because there was a lot of feedback on both sides from the community, and I think we can at least start trying to figure out what that would look like. So I think we should do that, and maybe early next year, there's a possibility of revisiting local law.
Is that something that you and
I know I
Councilwoman
said like
Alba-
something about, yeah, I mean, because it's my intention to do like a wider outreach to businesses and stakeholders for the funding futures.
Mhm.
It's just, sorry, I'm just like wiped out today. So I mean, yeah, it's just a question of how to work that in, because like for me, we could either make it a specific outreach or we just like envelop that kind of thing.
Yeah.
too.
Would it be helpful I feel like I can't take a lot on and do a good job right now, so like, if it's something, would that be helpful?
I mean, if it's something preliminarily where I just go with them a couple of questions, like, because I was specifically asking them about, how do you see the future development of the town? And then in general, we can put a couple of things specific to community, relations and noise outreach, or, quality of life relationships. I'm happy to include that. And then if there's anything we want to get more specific with. And then, if we see some huge trend in any of that data and we want to look at specifically at, revisiting the code, like you were saying, early.
Do you, it sounds like you wanna do that as part of the funding futures opportunity?
Well, I'm just gonna be out talking to everybody already, so that's useful
Mhm.
to include a couple of bullet points there. I'm happy to do that.
Can I ask what the timeline on that would be, just so we
I
can
mean,
think about?
soon, because we are, we're gonna be having the Funding Futures events, the first one's going to be, November.
Okay,
So, yeah, like, we're gonna be out there,
okay, great.
so in the next month or, anyway, yeah, the next coming weeks.
So you'll start having that
Yeah,
feedback.
I'll come talk
Okay.
to you.
Great,
then.
wonderful. I just was wondering if it was I know the Funding Futures goes into next year, so.
Oh,
that's
yeah,
all-
yeah.
That's the only reason why I was asking.
Oh, no,
So we're not gonna talk about the highway truck, the Spectrum franchise agreement, you said you had things to say about this.
it's like zombie season, how many times?
Yeah,
Well, it's on it. I mean,
they did make some changes.
sure, just not any that are impactful.
I printed out the overview of the changes that I got from our contact there. And then the draft is in our Dropbox. I just wanna get a poll, like, I would really like to close this off. I mean. What do you think?
I mean, is it 10 or is it 15 years now? We only get to do this once a decade. They put us through the ringer on getting the funding for closing those last gaps. It was like a year process of whatever they call that negotiating, where after a year, we ended up paying the same amount to help them build out their network. I think if we're gonna sign this, they need to give us some concession. They couldn't show us where they agreed to work with, extending the lines based off of previous direction from boards. And I think they should give us some concession for that. They should give us some promise of the board being able to say, we know this area on road X doesn't have service and there's houses there and we want you guys to provide service to them. And they seem to want to get it signed, but they're still paying the franchise fees, so I don't see any downside to making them consider this. Like, they didn't counter, they just said, we're not gonna do it. They didn't say, what about 2 miles or 1 mile? They're like, no, we're not gonna put anything in the contract. And they put it in the last one, so, I don't know, they have a monopoly. I don't think we should give it to them, because we're not gonna get another shot at it in 10 years.
But then, okay. Any other? Do you wanna see,
Yeah,
work
I
with
can
Brendan
write
directly?
Brendan.
Maybe it doesn't look like Brendan's very responsive, maybe you should like try to go for Brendan's head.
No, I'm the one that's not very responsive.
No.
No, because you cannot tell Charter Spectrum is not a very responsive company. From our past dealings, this is for our
Town,
town's one, right, not the.
it's for them to be able to come in and just work in the town, basically. It's not they're not the only company it's not a sole, what's it called?
It's not like it's not like the cell phone tower, sole proprietor.
It's not like
whatever it is, yeah.
we're not saying they're the only company that can come in, but.
It's
We
not
get,
exclusive,
right, and we get a percentage of,
but there are no other providers. Yeah, we get a percentage of the fees that they're charging to our residents, and then they're raising the rates on Spectrum every year. But they're covering their fees. I don't think it's unreasonable to say, give us some guarantee that you will allow this or future boards to close the gap if we find it. I mean, I know there's at least one in Cherrytown that they didn't.
The county's doing. The county just announced $8 million to close all the rest of the gap.
Well, right, but
I know, I'll hold my breath until it comes.
I mean, we're right in the middle of the county, and maybe they'll come down 209, but. Are they gonna go up? Are they gonna cover
They
88
said
square miles
everywhere,
of
they're
town?
talking Dennett in the article I read, like,
I know, I
I
saw
don't
it.
believe it. But
It's also not Spectrum, I don't think.
Kingston also just got 8 million for housing, still have got 0 from the county. Just saying, Chris, if you're watching.
I will write Brendan. Let's see.
Okay. Let's.
Yeah, I also
about that before you. Play.
You want to review my dear friend? I am
I
mad.
was trying to see if I had a breakout of the franchise fees so that we know exactly what we're getting, but it's lumped together in another, and I can't access QuickBooks from this building. Okay. It is, given what I was just saying, it's a significant enough source of revenue that I don't want to. It would be hard to replace. So,
Well, then they can't come and do work in our town without our approval, correct?
yeah, I think we have to think about that.
Yeah, well, so it behooves them, not us, to make sure that we sign this contract, like, they're still doing the work without it and we're still getting paid, so.
I don't think it's an unreasonable ask either. They
Yeah,
had
I
it
don't
in the
think
last
so.
contract.
All right. So we're not making any decisions tonight. Workshop meeting review. We want to reserve for some budget. There's gonna be at least one local law that we will be scheduling a public hearing for. We might have the letter that we are doing for the ambulance improvement district. We were, for the pro housing certification, we were trying to go the like proving that we've gone up 3.33% in housing every year. But I just went to a training that was like, you can also just pass a resolution. And I just would like to do that, because otherwise we have to submit all the data for.
All the assessment rules, that's why I was like, no, guys, we'll do this in 3 years. When I first saw it, I was like,
Yeah,
no.
well, it's like all the building permit.
Yeah, it's like
you have to
every
put them in a
building
spreadsheet.
permit for, yeah.
You have to
it's
put them in,
Crazy
and
amount
it's
of
just-
information.
It's not, right now, my office is still heavily assisting with planning and zoning. And I'm like, let's get it done this year.
For that.
Huh?
If we can have an easier route to be pro housing, let's use it.
Yeah. Okay, so I was gonna bring that resolution to the next meeting, so. Hearing. Pro housing. AID letter. Franchise. Agreement. Budget. Invite.
And our new boat.
Huh?
Our new boat.
Oh, playground or community center.
Really, Kevin, this question me 4 years later now, I'm like, yeah, the boat.
It's a good idea. It's a great idea.
Like 2 weeks.
Everyone needs a pirate ship.
I'm just writing myself a note. You guys, I have all of these agendas that I take notes on during the meeting, and they're all in a folder, and I just want you to know, if anything ever happens, that is the most helpful source of information, is that folder. I find. Okay. Need to
Don't call Sam, find the folder.
It like gives you, it's like, oh yeah, that's what we were doing. Okay.
That's how
Need to
mine-
schedule. Budget. Okay, so. Now we have an executive session. Unless there's anything else the board would like to.
Motion to enter executive session at 8:45 for the purposes. Of where's the agenda? Litigation between the town and M&T Advantage. Advanced Building Solutions LLC and matters leading to the appointment of a particular person.
And matters regarding the employment history of a particular person or person.
Yes.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstain, motion carries. Great, good night, everyone.